Welcome, Mr. Bill O'Reilly, the author of the new book, Killing Crazy Horse. Bill, where are we, and what do you think is happening?
Well, I think there would be a recount of the vote in Georgia, which will hold up certification of Joe Biden as president. There may be a recount in Pennsylvania as well. It'll be more difficult to get it there because Democrats control the state, where in Georgia, Republicans control the state. But in Georgia, it's a certainty there'll be a recount of the whole election, and it'll take some time. In Arizona, you said that Biden may lose the state, but hey, Fox News has called it for Biden. So
I know they called it with one vote counted. It was great.
Yeah, you can't. So, and then Nevada, they just basically issued a press release. I don't know whether you saw this, which says we don't want to count the votes. It's too hard. So there's not going to do it.
That's not what they said.
Well, it was close yesterday when they said, somebody asked them, why did you stop counting the votes? And the Secretary of State or whatever it is out there is in charge. He goes, well, we were tired. We had to stop.
It was that's why, honestly, we tell that to our soldiers once in a while in war. We're like, hey, guys, we didn't know it was going to be this hard to take that hill.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to keep a sense of humor about this. I know people are furious, and they should be. I just wrote a message of the day saying, look, this is Keystone Cops, but it was predictable, and this is a very interesting angle to this whole thing. You'll remember that last summer, Donald Trump was confronted with questions, and it went on and on for about a week about, are you going to leave if you lose? Remember that?
Yeah.
Are you going to leave the White House if you're going to lose? Mm-hmm. And it was like a carousel. He said the same thing. He goes, yeah, but, we're going to make sure it's an honest election. And then the next day it was the same question, the same answer. And that struck me as very, very strange back then. All right? Why are you doing that? You didn't ask Barack Obama that in his last few months before the vote. So I noted it, and I noted that Trump said very specifically if it's honest, if it's an honest count. Why would that be in his head? So I think what happened was that this COVID thing provided cover for largely Democratic states to basically shift the vote to the mail, which is much harder to regulate. Now, I saw Mara Eliason. You know she is?
Yes,
the NPR woman that's on Fox?
Yeah.
All right. So Mara Eliason goes, Georgia's a Republican state. So, how can you accuse Georgia? But this isn't about Georgia. This is about Fulton County. That's Atlanta. That's where all of this is happening.
I beg to differ with you. They had a pipe burst, and that water main happened to burst in the same room where all of those ballots were. And who could have seen that? They always keep really important stuff right by the water main.
But now I understand that wasn't in the room. The pipe burst was not even close to the votes. They were just upset because the pipe burst, and then, of course, Nevada said, hey, we can't be counting votes when a pipe burst in Georgia. Come on. Who would do that? So bizarre is the word of the day. Now, let's get serious. So if Donald Trump wants to convince the nation that this is a fraud, that he had a 600,000 vote lead in Pennsylvania on Election Day, but he lost by 100,000 4 days later. If he wants to convince people it's a fraud, he's got to find physical evidence.
You do.
All right, so they've got to find ballots, and that shouldn't be that hard to do because we're talking about a lot of votes in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Georgia, in Pennsylvania. Interestingly enough, in North Carolina, there hasn't been this problem. I don't really understand. North Carolina, they haven't called it, but Trump's going to win it. But they haven't been fluctuating that much in that. So what's the difference between Georgia and North Carolina? They share a border up in the northwest part of both states. So I'm confused, and I think everybody's confused, but everybody's angry. So you can imagine if the courts would rule in Trump's favor, then the nuts will come out and start to burn down the cities.
Right.
That's what they'll do. So we're in a mess now. This is a mess for this country, and there's no easy way out of this.
So here's let me just say what I think. Let me just say what I feel. I feel that if Donald Trump can't come up with hard evidence, if he can't, you have to have evidence. If you can't come up with evidence in any of these states, then the American people are just not going to back it. You can't just say they're stealing it. You have to say, well, for instance, in Philadelphia, they kicked the guys out. Okay, then when you were kicked out, all of those ballots need to be recounted with people looking directly over the shoulder. I want to look at all of those ballots that were counted. Rudy Giuliani told me yesterday that they are separate. You can find those votes. Good. Then that's what we do. Find the votes. But you can't just say they're stealing the election. I think they are. I think there's funny business going on everywhere. But I don't have any evidence of it yet. And all the evidence that I do see, in Michigan where they're taking in the wagon and everything else, that turned out to be camera crew. That's the way they travel with the cameras. There's all of these things that are being said that just aren't true. But we have to have real evidence.
I agree with you, but I take it a step further. If you're going to recount in Georgia and you're going to recount in Pennsylvania, you can't have the locals do it. All right? You've got to move in federal election people from the election commission.
I would be okay with that as long as you had it balanced Republican and Democrat, both.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, you have 50-50. But if the locals are going to cheat once, they'll cheat twice, and they don't want to get caught cheating because they're going to go to prison.
And I don't know. I honestly don't know any American. I know a lot of people who are in politics that wouldn't mind, but I don't know any American that wants this that wants to win by cheating.
I do. I mean, there are zealots that would cheat.
I know. No, I know that. But I mean, the average American doesn't want that.
I mean, most Americans are angry right now, but over the weekend when they're napping along with you, okay, and they wake up, they'll say, hey, this is bad for the country. We might hate Joe Biden, all right, and we might think that Trump got hosed, but the longer this goes on, the worse it is for the country. But it will go on. And if the Trump people find, and they're looking, if they find hard evidence of fraud, then this election is going to be put into the Supreme Court. Now, everyone should know, listening to the Glenn Beck radio program right now, that the federal judges, including those on the Supreme Court, do not want to decide this election.
Nope.
All right? That's not what they want to do. They're not relishing this at all. Because then you're basically having a president by judicial fiat, no matter how they rule. So they would have to have, they being the Trump administration, very compelling evidence, not anecdotal evidence, hard stuff you can see, that there was fraud. But if they do, then it will go to the Supreme Court.
Right. And I think people will fight for it on both sides. But if you have compelling evidence, you have to have compelling evidence.